Hello, everyone. It's so great to see everybody here. It's been a while. Sorry I haven't made any videos in a while. I've been really busy doing a lot of different new ventures since we no longer are in charge of Chicago Hauntings. Chicago Hauntings is going strong, so definitely I encourage you guys to go out there and get your tickets at chicagohauntings.com. With Mike Huberty now running the business. He is so great at this. And we've got all of our great tour guides still out there, including Tony Sabelski, who I know everyone loves, including myself. So definitely get out there, maybe a little Valentine's Day ghost tour, St. Valentine's Day Massacre, pub crawl, I think they have going on. So check it out. Again, that's chicagohauntings.com. I wanted to stop in with you guys today because from time to time, I'll still get some comments on blog posts that I made when I was regularly doing the blog on the Chicago Hauntings website. And sometimes there's still some really interesting comments on those old blog posts. And that was the case last week when I got one of these blog comments forwarded to me from Mike Huberty, who runs the tours now. And the comment was related to the famous House of 2,000 Demons, 200 Demons house in Gary, Indiana, the famous Demon House case that's connected to Zach Bagans of Ghost Adventures. The gentleman who made the comment had asked me if I had heard some different things about the case, and he attached this recent newspaper article about someone that was involved in the case that I found very fascinating. So I just wanted to share this with you. But before I share with you this news article that he shared with me, I want to just kind of do a little recap of the story, because the recent article concerns a social worker that was involved in the case. So I want to just kind of tell you guys what she went through. Excuse me there, let me get this up here. When she was involved in the case, because she did experience a lot of the things on the case that have become really famous now. Some of the most sort of harrowing things about the case that led to the exorcisms happening were experienced by this woman. So I do want to just kind of catch you up on those things that she had experienced when she was working with the family. So let me just going to put a picture up here so you have something to look at besides myself. So as you might know, this whole story came to light when there was a big story that broke in the Indy Star newspaper that's based in Indianapolis. And this was the now infamous news article, very lengthy news article that was written by Marissa Kwiatkowski. And I think it's one of the most read newspaper articles in American history, definitely the most read in the history of the Indy Star. But all of this activity was centered on a family that lived on Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana. And it was the mother, Latoya Ammons, and her mother, Rosa Campbell, who lived together with Latoya's children. They were several young children. And a lot of the activity was centered around the youngest son. It was very interesting how it worked out, because Father Maginot, who became the exorcist on the case, determined that it was actually Latoya, the mother, who was possessed, and not any of the children, even though the children were the ones that were, exhibiting a lot of the phenomena that was, became so famous, including the children's eyes rolling back in their heads. The children would grunt and growl. There was the little boy said that he was in contact with this ghost in the house, a little boy that wanted him to die. The little boy started to threaten to kill other family members and things like this. So it was rather interesting. There were a lot of people who came to the house, including Gary police, who became convinced that there were things indeed going on in the house that couldn't be explained. There were objects that were found under the basement stairs that were seemed to be part of some sort of necromancy that had gone on, such as things such as fingernails and underwear. that were found beneath the house. And these are all in Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in Las Vegas. If you haven't been there, it's an interesting exhibit. There's the basement stairs from the house and a lot of these artifacts that were found. When all of this came to a head at that house on Carolina Street, in desperation, because there seemed to be real threats against the children now from these entities or entity in the house, LaToya took the children to the family physician, and there were very strange things that happened in the doctor's office that led to LaToya being hospitalized and a caseworker to be put on the case from family services. So I'm going to be reading here for a minute from that famous article in the Indy Star, which you can find online. It's an excellent piece of journalism, and I definitely recommend that you read it. I'll put the link in the description below here. Okay, so finally, in desperation, the family went to their family physician, Dr. Jeffrey Onwuka, on April 19th, 2012. LaToya said that she told him what they were going through, hoping he might understand. The doctor told the Indy Star that it was, quote, bizarre. He said, 20 years and I've never heard anything like that in my life. He said, I was scared myself when I walked into the room, end quote. He said he would not speak in more detail unless Ammons had psychiatric clearance for the waiver of confidentiality she had signed. In his medical notes about the visit, Onwuka wrote delusions of ghost in home and hallucinations in his report. He also wrote history of ghost at home and, quote, delusional. What LaToya and Campbell say, Campbell was the LaToya's mom, Rosa Campbell, say happened next was detailed in a DCS report of a family case manager's interviews with medical staff. Chaos erupted, they said. Campbell said that Ammons' sons cursed the doctor in demonic voices, raging at him. Medical staff said the youngest boy was, quote, lifted and thrown into the wall with nobody touching him, end quote, according to a DCS report. The boys abruptly passed out and wouldn't come to, Campbell added. She cradled one boy in her arms. Ammons held the other. Someone from the doctor's office called 911. The doctor said 7 or 8 police officers and multiple ambulances arrived on the scene. The doctor said, quote, they couldn't figure out exactly what was happening, quote, he recalled. Police said emergency personnel took the boys to Methodist Hospital's campus in Gary. Ammons said hospital personnel laughed at her desire to anoint the sons in olive oil. Quote, I couldn't talk to them, she said, so I talked to God, end quote. The boys woke up in the hospital. The older boy, then 9, acted rationally, but the youngest screamed and thrashed, his grandmother said. She said it took 5 men to hold him down. Meanwhile, someone called the Department of Children's Services and asked the agency to investigate the mother for possible child abuse or neglect. The caller, who was not named in the report, speculated that Ammons might have a mental illness. The person believed the children were performing for Ammons and that she was encouraging their behavior because of her beliefs. DCS family case manager Valerie Washington, who I think our recent article is about, I'm not positive about it because the name hasn't been published because there's going to be some sort of sentencing, I think. But anyway, I think this is who the article is about. So Valerie Washington was asked to handle the initial investigation for DCS. She gave the following account to police and in her intake officer's report. Hospital personnel examined Ammons, the mother, and her children and found them to be healthy and free of marks or bruises. A hospital psychiatrist evaluated Ammons and determined she was of sound mind. Washington then interviewed the family in the hospital. While she spoke with Ammons, the 7-year-old boy started growling with his teeth showing. His eyes rolled back in his head. The boy locked his hands around his older brother's throat and refused to let go until adults pried them open. Later that evening, Washington and registered nurse Willie Lee Walker brought the two boys into a small exam room for an interview. Campbell joined them, the grandmother. The 7-year-old stared into his brother's eyes and began to growl again. "It's time to die," the boy said in a deep, unnatural voice. "I will kill you." While the youngest boy spoke these words, the older brother started headbutting his grandmother in the stomach. Campbell grabbed her grandson's hands and started praying with him. What happened next would rattle the witnesses, and to some it would offer not only evidence but proof of paranormal activity. According to the caseworker's original DCS report, an account corroborated by Walker, the nurse, the 9-year-old had a weird grin on his face and then walked backward up a wall to the ceiling. After taking a few steps across the ceiling, he flipped over his grandmother, landing on his feet. He had never let go of his grandmother's hand. The nurse told the Star he walked up the wall, flipped over her, and stood there. There's no way he could have done it. Later, police asked Washington whether the boy had run up the wall, as though performing an acrobatic trick. No, Washington told them. She said the boy glided backwards on the floor, glided backwards up the wall, and glided backwards across the ceiling. Washington did not respond to the Star's request for additional comments, but she told police she was scared when it happened and that she ran out of the room. As for Walker, the nurse, Washington said, "He ran out of the room with me. We didn't know what was going on," the nurse told the Star. "It was crazy. I was like, everybody gotta go." According to Washington's report, they told the doctor what had happened. The doctor, who did not believe them, asked the boy to walk up the wall again. The boy said he didn't remember what had happened, and couldn't do it. Walker, who said he previously believed in demons and spirits, thought the boy's behavior had, quote, "some demonic spirit to it," end quote. A police report quoted Washington saying she believed there could be an evil influence affecting the family. So that is from the original story that broke, and I think the story broke in originally in 2013. I want to say this was, I'm sorry, 2014. January 2014 was when it was originally published. So this article a few days ago was sent to me, and I just found that it very interesting, especially in light of a lot of things that I have experienced during my career, having been connected to a lot of places like this and seeing their effect on people and the way that they have influenced people's health, both physical health and mental health, myself included, of course. So this article appeared, and I found it interesting because there was only the connection to the demon house first appeared when the story came out, and then in most of the articles and the news platforms where the article appeared, later on they removed the reference to the demon house, and that this was the idea, the fact that this woman was connected to it. So I'm going to read this article to you. This is the only news source that I found where that connection is still up, and this is the Region news source. If you're not familiar with Gary, the Region is what the area of Northwest Indiana is known as, which includes Gary, of course. So this article, this took place on New Year's Day, 2022. And so that's when this article is from, like late evening, just after this incident occurred. So the headline is "Ambulance Stolen from Hospital Recovered." Around 7:30 p.m. Saturday, January 1st, 2022, an Elite ambulance was stolen from North Lake Methodist Hospital in Gary. Elite staff advised officers they were picking up a patient, and when they returned, the ambulance was missing. The ambulance was tracked using a GPS device to the area around 40th and Colfax. Lake County Sheriff officers and Griffith police officers found the ambulance parked at Ridge and Colfax at a Walgreens where one female was found, quote unquote, chilling in the rig. The 44-year-old female from Dyer was taken into custody around 7:45 p.m. The female is known by police in the area for having psychiatric issues. The female is believed to be an old CPS worker who made headlines from working the 2011 Demon House case in Gary. Since that incident, issues have arisen, sources told Regional News Service. After that case, the ghost hunter Zach Bagans bought the home, which was located at 3860 Carolina Street in Gary, and had it torn down after weird occurrences with his staff during production of the movie. The name of the female suspect is not being released, pending charges through the Lake County Prosecutor's Office. And again, that's from the Region News source. So you heard the article that I read that appeared in the Indy Star that talked about that original caseworker from Child Protective Services that was assigned to this case while the family was in the hospital. That was a very believing person. She eventually left, Ms. Washington, she eventually left the case. And I'm not sure. I know it's in that article. She may have lost her job. I'm not quite sure about that. But she definitely did leave the case. And there was another caseworker put on it that was when she was interviewed by the Indy Star for that earlier story. She was very like sort of flippant about it. She said that her friends thought that something had attached itself to her. So this is the second caseworker that was put on the case, whose name is not in the article. And that second caseworker, apparently there was a string of bad luck, misfortune that befell her, where she had a motorcycle accident, she had a fall. There was a string of things like that that happened to her, leading her friends to believe that something had attached itself to her from working on the Demon House case. And she joked about it, and she said, like, I'm evil as it is. I don't need evil to come looking for me. Something in that regard. So was it the first social worker who apparently left the case or was taken off the case? She was very shaken up by it, especially about what happened in that hospital room. Or was it that second caseworker who was very flippant about the idea of the attachment, but did actually seem to have things that were happening? Did she continue to have things happen to her, including psychiatrically? So might be a while before we find out who this woman was because of the anonymity right now because of the court issues. But I'm going to keep monitoring the situation and let you know if I find anything else out about this. Also talk to a buddy of mine who's a former Gary police officer who might be able to find something out also. So if I do find something out, I will definitely share that with you, but I wanted to share this with you because I thought it was so fascinating. I know a lot of you who have been involved in the paranormal for many years have encountered situations like this where there seemed to be either yourself or someone else that was working on the case with you, or someone that was close to it that seemed to be affected by what was going on physically, psychologically. And in some of these cases, there seems to be some permanent damage that's done, especially if the person doesn't get away from the situation. So as many of you know, I do not investigate the paranormal for fun anymore. I do still help families and people in other situations where there does seem to be something that is very serious that's going on and it needs religious help more than a Ghostbuster. So I do still do that, but I have learned some very hard lessons being involved in the paranormal for so many years, and this is a piece of evidence, kind of in my case against being too involved in the paranormal just for fun. So I hope you've enjoyed this catch up about the Demon House, and like I said, I will keep you informed. And I'm going to try to make some more frequent videos for you guys. I have a couple of mini documentaries that I'm going to be finishing up and posting here. And also going to be doing some online lectures that I will post here for you to enjoy at no cost. And probably read some stories here too as we get through the long winter together. So I hope you all are well, and thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all very soon. Take good care.